So once again, we are sitting down to talk about Garland on the channel. I feel like it was just yesterday since we first talked about his EX Plus, and just yesterday since we first talked about his LD. And here we are with his LD extension boards and his burst release, as well as Seven's LD extension boards with her LD release. Without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and hop on in. As always, big shout out to the Tomberry Troop for the lovely infographics, I can say that now, that will be displayed in this video. Lovely group of people. If you're not following them on any other social media platforms such as Facebook and or Reddit, or giving the website a check-see, make sure you go do so. They're a lovely group of people and very helpful to the community. So let's start off with Seven, the whip girl from Final Fantasy Type 0. So Seven's LD gives her access to a double HP dump HP damage attack that gives her access to a new framed buff and changes her HP attack into a capture form, or that's what it's called. This new frame buff gives some auras to be supplied to the party in the forms of attack, max brave, overflow, brave damage, and HP damage increase. Some solid stuff. It gives her some aura body capabilities now. Like someone like Balthier, how he could just supply this to the party. Now Seven gets access to stuff like this. Her HP attack will change into this new form capture, which when she uses it, which is a 2-hit single target HP attack, it will give her access to a framed buff that will inflict an HP damage attack every single time one of your party members takes an action. Also to point out that her LD will inflict 3 stacks of her Snake Bite and Lash, or Snake Bite, sorry, framed debuff just immediately. So overall, the LD is actually really solid. Getting the ability to give some auras to the party helps bring her party utility up and give her a little bit more functionality. But the problem still remains with Seven, that the Snake Bite debuff still works the exact same. Where she targets a new enemy, the one will dispel and be placed onto the new one. So this still makes her very hard to work against dual bosses, and she has absolutely hardly any splash damage at all. So barely any AoE. You're really only going to bring her against single type bosses, which are very rare in this game, where we mostly get dual type bosses. So a lot of Seven's functionality, while she does have some aura supporting capabilities now and a really powerful potent debuff, it's only going to be tied to single type bosses, because while yes, you can actually get her to perform in multiple type in double type bosses and things like that, honestly, I don't think it's really too worth the hassle. She's going to be a character you're going to be bringing up against a single type boss, and she will excel there, but we do have better options for aura bots, and overall, I think that she really needed a rework to get some splash damage in there, personally, and a rework for that debuff. I get the idea behind it, but it's not practical in a game where dual type bosses are the most common thing that we go up against. Now let's go ahead and hop in and talk about Garland. So Garland's LD extension gives him access to a double HP dump on his LD, and will give him access to a 2-hit single target HP attack, followed by a 2-hit single target HP attack follow-up after each and every single one of Garland's HP attacks. Now his Chains of Time actually has some increased capabilities per stack. Not only does it get an additional 2 turns when you use his LD, but as his stacks increase, so does his brave damage, his HP damage, and his attack and overflow. All of his offensive capabilities continue to increase per stack, and caps at 5 stacks. I believe it's 50% brave damage and 30% HP damage. Those are insane values, and it doesn't stop there. The burst is one of the best burst animations in this game. Don't at me with that. It's by far the best animation in this game. I will fight anyone tooth and nail on that. And gives the party access to another stacking mechanic. This is the first for a burst, but every single time one of your allies takes an action, the stacks will go up. The more the stacks, the more brave damage and HP damage, attack, and overflow your party will get. Capping at 50% for brave damage, 30% for HP damage, and so on for the other values. This is absurd. It lasts for 6 of Garland's turns and will reset once once the enemy does take an action. But considering Garland is a delay machine, most of the time they won't get to take their turn until this burst effect is just about gone. That party aura from that burst effect is so insane for offensive capabilities and increasing Garland's damage to untold heights as well as the rest of the party. Yes, get that burst if you plan on playing Garland. Not only for the fact of what it does now, but what it will do in the future, because it does get a burst plus. Garland is by far, now finally, one of the best and most prominent DPS characters that you can have for quite a long time. And will return once again. Once he begins to fall off, he will return back to new heights with a burst plus and becomes insanely future-proof, as he will get a future rework. Garland is probably one of the best investments for a melee DPS character that you could ever possibly have, whereas literally the only downside to him is possibly delaying a little too much for the Lufenia orb and nothing really else. That's really it. He does everything else for you. You just need to support him as you would any other DPS character. I have nothing else to say but give praise to Garland, and if you are not pulling for this character, I need to know why. Jokingly, of course, but yes, everything from Garland is absolutely worth it. I will myself be pitying for Garland's burst once Ignis's banner rolls around. I chose Ignis's banner because I really want to pull for Ignis as well, and that's when I will be doing my full-blown pity. If I have to pity this burst, I personally will. Overall, Garland and Seven both overall are really fantastic characters. Whereas Seven has a little bit more niche utility to her. You could get the job done. Just make sure you understand her false comings. But both these characters are relatively strong and get the job done. And that'll wrap it up for me on this one, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.